Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Show with your host, Jeff Lopes, where we bring you the world's top athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, influencers, and their journeys to success.
Welcome to episode 183 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on our first return guest after over 180 episodes, a good friend of the show, Steve Harris, business coach, life coach, and just overall amazing person. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. This podcast is brought to you by Castus. Have you ever spent the time to ask your customers how easy it was to navigate through your website? The reason I'm asking is 47% of customers expect your website to load in less than 2 seconds. Retailers lose an estimated $2.6 billion every single year just because their website is too slow and not easy to navigate. You have to realize your website is your virtual representation of your traditional brick and mortar. It's almost like your salesperson 24/7, telling your customer a story about your brand. By having your website streamlined to offer the best user experience, you're able to be more efficient with your time and resources for your customers. Castus is a team of business developing experts that enables a B2B e-commerce to streamline the relation between your wholesalers and your resellers. They create custom digital storefronts that cater to both your products and your buyers to drive online orders and strengthen your brand loyalty. Castus' in-depth experience working in the back-end logistics to front-end customer experience and everything in between makes them the perfect full-cycle partner for your business growth. Visit their website, castusglobal.com/Jeff Knows to set up a non-obligation one-on-one free consultation with one of the experts to learn more. That's castusglobal.com/Jeff Knows. That's JEFFKNOWS. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on our first out of 184 episodes, our first return guest. I love it. An individual I consider a friend now, and I love seeing everything he does. Steve Harris. What is up, brother?
I'm good. Good to see you, brother, as always. I've missed you, man.
So since we talked last, a few big things have happened in your life. You got on a plane, You got the family, you packed your bags, and you moved to the U.S., to Texas to be
absolutely.
How was that? Let's talk about that for a bit.
Man, it was a big shift. That's what I can say. It was a big shift because I've lived most of my life, in Nigeria, give or take, studying and other things. But it was a big shift, and but my family loves it. It was pretty hard to say goodbye to family and friends, and everything you've known. And so to speak, to move to a new place. But, it's been 6 months in today. I mean, today is literally the 6th month that we've been in the U.S. And it's been good. It's been good.
How's your daughter taking it? Is she enjoying it? Is it a cultural shock for her with school and stuff? Like, how is she adapted?
Well, I think she's adapted great, to be honest. She's having a good time. She's made a lot of friends. She's, getting closer to the honor roll. So she's happy with that because she's very, very into education and learning. So, she's good. She misses her friends from time to time. But, the beautiful thing about technology, she can always call them, FaceTime them. So, yeah, but, she's doing good. She's doing great.
How's the we're going to talk about a few things that I want to bring up today, but how's your wife been with the move?
So for her, it was a little bit trickier. You know what I mean? Because she's very, very rooted to where we come from, and culturally, a lot of her family is back home in Nigeria. So she didn't take it well initially. It was a bit hard to settle down, but now she's going into the swing of things. She's got her mom is here as well, so that she's happy about that. She has a couple of friends that keep her rooted and grounded. So she's come around. She's happy. What they say: happy wife, happy life, brother.
Talking about that, how's business been since the transition? Are you still navigating a majority of your clients back in Nigeria, or you've moved to more of a US based customer? Like, what are you doing business wise?
So I think right now it's more of an 80-20.
Okay.
So about 80% of my business still comes from Nigeria, while, we're still launching into the US market, getting ourselves known, collaborating reaching out, seeing how we can serve, the community. So it's a bit more of 80-20. And I think as we go along, we'll make the numbers climb eventually. My focus really is to, really reach out to the U.S. market or the North American market, as the case may be. So, yeah, baby steps, but we're moving.
We're moving. How have your clients reacted with the move? The ones you had back home? Obviously with technology, you're still able to do what you have to do, but how do they react not having you locally? Like, is there a pushback? Like, what I mean by this, is there a pushback that you're not grounded or rooted back in Nigeria? Now you're living in the US and you're trying to still work towards us as a customer base. Like, how do they react to you?
Well, to be honest, I don't think there's much of a problem.
Good.
Because again, I still have a business running there, and I've got a team of associates and consultants. So
you've kept that. You've kept that.
So I've kept that. So my team is just working, and if the client needs me, then they have to pay a premium, recognizing that I'm not in the city. So things are still going. Pardon me. Things are still going very well. My clients, of course. I think for the longest time with my consulting business, maybe at least 4 years, I'd kind of dissociated myself from the every day-to-day running of the business. But beyond that, it takes a lot to get me to be physically present with my clients. You know what I mean? It means if they need high-level strategy, then that's when they're going to call me. But if it's the regular mundane consulting interventions, they've got my team. So we didn't skip a beat. So I think that's a good thing.
Is there a handful of clients you still work with one-on-one or anything, or no? Are you pushed away from that? Course. There is, huh?
No. Yeah, there is. There still is. Yeah, there still is. Particularly now that I'm in the States. So yeah, there are quite a number of people I'm working with here as well. So
when you're targeting, what's your demographic? Are you still targeting more the Nigerian community? Or are you opening up to everybody now? Like, where's your mindset with the business?
No, it's a lot open. It's a lot open. I mean, the world is a big place. So
I love it. Yeah,
it's great. The world is a big place. So to be honest, I'm really not focused on the Nigerian market per se. Okay. I'm grateful that a lot of my work still comes from there because we built a brand, we built some history. So there's a lot of referrals and business that still comes. But you can't drive forward looking backward. You can't drive forward looking in your rear view. So I hate to say it this way, but Nigeria is in my rear view. So we are moving forward and just trying to see how we can make a bigger difference in the world. So yeah,
I love that. So give me your understanding. Like how what's your daily routine now that you're in the US? Or you said today, health wise, you're obviously trying to take care of yourself. And this is something we actually talked about. It's been a year almost, more than a year. More than about a year. Actually. And we had this conversation. Yeah. So where's your priorities with that right now?
No, to be honest, I think I'm doing pretty good. I kind of work out like 4 days a week.
Okay.
So then my wife and I go on long walks. So she's really happy about that. We've been doing great with that. Today was a little bit different because the doctors noticed that my blood pressure was slightly elevated. And I also think it comes with the stress of moving to a new country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that I perhaps would not have to worry about. Like, give an example. Back home in Nigeria, I had a driver, now I have to drive everywhere and I hate driving.
Yeah.
So, and Texas is so, Dallas particularly is so large and you have to drive from point A to point B. I'm certain that's probably how it is in Canada. So something like that elevates my stress, so getting on the road and driving just elevates me a little bit. But yeah, health-wise, we've been doing pretty good, vegetables, fruits, the whole 9 yards. I'm trying to look lean and limber like you, Jeff. I'm trying. It's really hard, but it's really hard.
Add some extra stress to your life, and it gets there pretty easily.
I know. So you can see the last time we spoke, I wasn't this all gray and grizzled. So
I wear a hat for a reason. I'm all gray and grizzled too, and I just shaved this morning on purpose to keep the baby face going for you.
It works. I'm sure my wife doesn't want me to keep the baby face. She's got a thing with men with beards. So I'm stuck with this.
How do you find Texas? I mean, and I'm going to talk about a couple of topics. It's something that obviously just happened about a week ago with the school and stuff like that. Because I'd like to hear your output on that. But how do you find Texas overall living wise? Because obviously it's great for taxes. Great, there's a lot of benefits there.
Yeah.
How do you find it? And is this something where you plan to stay rooted there, or is there anywhere else you're looking? Are you comfortable there?
I think we're really comfortable here, to be honest.
Because you have your sister there, right?
Yes, my sister's in Dallas. You got great memory, bro.
Yeah.
So my sister's here as well. Normally, whenever I travel, we either stay in New Jersey, New York. But I like Texas. Texas is pretty. The weather is great.
Yeah.
The weather is great. The people are really cool. They're really friendly and nice. So
yeah.
I mean, I like it. It's great. The environment's pretty cool. We've settled pretty well. So yeah, I think we might put down roots here. Who knows what'll happen? But I like Texas.
Let's talk about that, because obviously you have a daughter going to school and stuff like that. When did you hear about the shooting, and how was your reaction to it?
Dude, that is the craziest thing about this country, man. I am sorry to anyone who is. No,
I think conversations like this have to be had, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I just saw that Justin Trudeau just even banned all handguns and weapons. I think that's a great thing. I don't know personally, because again, I'm coming from an environment that the only people who carry guns are the military or police. That's where or the police. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So we don't see people. You can't carry a gun in Nigeria. There's no way you're going to carry a gun.
Yeah.
So moving here and then seeing the ease to access to weapons for me was very jolting. And I'm not going to lie, the moment we heard that the school massacre happened, we were terrified. I mean, of course, we pray and we trust God that our families are protected. And it's really sad. No child. I mean, I read a stat on Twitter. I don't know how accurate it is, to be honest, but I read a stat that there have been more kids have died from gunfire in the United States this year than police or military personnel. I think that's crazy.
Yeah. Just in general, like the mass, we want to call them mass shootings, and obviously one individual in my office, one of my staff actually said the other day, anything considered 2 or more is a mass shooting. But still, when you look at the numbers, they're saying there's been more mass shootings than days this year in the U.S.
It's crazy.
So there are stats there that just make you try to understand, and you try to understand both sides, because you're getting a lot of ex-military when you see certain posts by individuals saying it's not the guns, it's they need to focus on mental health care and other issues. But if the guns weren't there, would this happen? So you have to look at both sides, right? And when I first heard it, I just heard it over the news. I was listening in my car. I was just driving the Jeep and I heard it, and then for some reason that what locked in my head, because it was just quickly on the news, was high school student. They say he was 18 or something, a high school student. My first reaction was he went back to his high school. He was picked on, or
that's what I thought.
And then when I got home and I was sitting down having dinner with my wife, and I brought it up to my wife, she goes, "Do you realize it was all 8, 9, 10-year-olds?" And I was like, "What?" And that just, and I'm sitting there looking at my 2 kids, and I'm like, "Are you effing kidding me?"
That's crazy.
I literally got nauseous right out of the way. I was just like, this is insane.
It is
insane that could happen. Those lives will never, ever, those parents will never, how do you even wake up the next day?
I can't even begin to imagine. I mean, I see you with your kids, and I can tell that your family is your life.
Yeah.
Now imagine, God forbid, losing that. I can't begin to imagine, man. It's a conversation that needs to be had. But hey, I'm not American, and there are more people who are more vested than I am. But the fact that I live and breathe here, is a concern. It's a concern that someone can just claim. I mean, of course, there are mental health issues, and these things are to be discussed. But like you said, if the guns weren't there, he would not go in there, popping and shooting. It's crazy.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 5-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you see anything in the works that is correcting, or any suggestions to correct what is happening. And I an individual did a post the other day, and I listened to it and I read it, and it somewhat made sense, but part of me feels like the American government will never do it. It was an individual said something where, and I'm just air quoting here, so it's not too exact, but it was something in regards to that if you took one ex-military, a retired military, and put them in every single school as quote unquote security, and paid them a minimal of say 70,000, it would have been a total of, I don't know what it said, $9 billion. But the U.S. says they don't have the funds for it, but they just sent $40 billion to the Ukraine.
To Ukraine.
Yeah. So something like that, would that solve the issue? Would that help the issue? Having one or two trained teachers that are armed in the school, would that help this situation? Would that? It's there's so many factors, right?
I don't know, bro, but because I heard this conversation that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is to get a good guy with a gun, which is perhaps what you're saying.
Yeah.
But what happens if, God forbid, the good guy has some mental health issue and then just decides to just go gangbusters? I don't think the issue is whether it's a good guy or a bad guy. I think it's the fact that the weapons are
so accessible.
Available. Yeah. I don't see any reason why, there should be military style assault weapons available for sale. I don't think so. We're not fighting a war. You know what I mean? You want to get a handgun. Okay. Yeah. But a military grade weapon has no business. There are no background checks. There are none of those things. I get that Americans talk about the right to bear arms and stuff, but we're not in a war. You know what I mean? And the right to bear arms should be for militia. And I don't think the average American is a militia person. So I don't know. Maybe this is a conversation that's above my pay grade. I don't know. But to be honest, as a father, as a parent,
these are conversations that people need to have. And the more people have, the more people listen to it, it brings awareness. It brings attention to it, whether people are going to agree or disagree, because you're always going to have people that are going to be on your side or against you. That is every single factor, every single idea you have. There's going to be two sides of the fence, right? So, but it's a topic that we have to talk about. And don't get me wrong, there are mass shootings in other countries, but it's just the numbers, the bare numbers are just insane. And we actually had one day, maybe 2 days later, a copycat here. An individual took it, but it was an air pistol, so it wasn't a real gun. It was like one of those air guns, and the police actually shot and killed him here. And it was he showed up at a school with and he had done some posts on social media or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, that it was a copycat, right?
Right.
But it's so scary, man. Just when you hear that your kids go to school and you get that call, your heart stops, right?
It is. It's no parent should ever have to get that call. No parent should ever wonder maybe that this, God forbid, is the last time they'll see their kids. I think I think we need to make it as hard as possible for people to get guns. You know what I mean? That's what I believe. I believe that insane, background checks. I read something on Twitter. I don't know if it's accurate, but they said to get a gun in Japan, you would have to go to the police, right? They would screen you. They would do work history, background history. They would ask your family. They make it so hard for you to get it that if you do get it, you're gonna. I don't know what it is. But
it's very difficult in Canada as well. If I'm correct, if you have an ex-wife or an ex-partner, they're also interviewed, even though they're out of your life, to see your history, physical history and stuff like that. They're interviewed as well through the process. So it's not an easy process to get a gun here in Canada as well, right? So there's a lot of steps and hoops you got to kind of go through to get your gun license here in Canada as well. So it's interesting. I wouldn't say your gun license, but to actually physically carry a firearm or to be able to transport a firearm. Yeah.
Man, either way, people shouldn't have access to guns. That's what I think.
Yeah, I know. I'm on your side with that stuff, because I'm not a gun guy in to start with. So let's just change topic now. There's something we saw the other day, and I threw a comment. what is up with Steve with the dating game now? You're trying to hook up people too.
I'm doing my best, bro.
You know that was going to come up in today, huh?
I know.
So what's up with that?
Well, to be honest, again, I come from a culture where a lot of good women are single. You know what I mean? And they're unfortunately they're scared they're aging out.
Okay.
And I wrote a book. Maybe excuse me. I wrote a book maybe about 5 years ago. I called it From Friend to Fiance, how to get him to want you without letting him know you want him to want you. And it was a pretty big hit back home in Nigeria. We sold over 5,000, 6,000 copies. And a lot of women were really blessed by that. And I started getting a lot of women say to me, Uncle Steve, you got to do something. We're the good guys. All the good guys are gone. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, they're not gone. They're like, yeah, they are. They're gone. They're married. And all the single guys just aren't ready to get settled. So I decided, okay, you know what? Maybe there is something here. Maybe I could coach women. Since I've already written a book and it was a pretty big hit, let me start coaching women to understand how men think. So it's almost like, there's a book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus.
Yeah.
That sort of, So it's just, helping women understand the way men think. And so to speak, position themselves differently.
Let's talk about that. Break that up to me. Give me. I'm your female client. Give me a position. How would I position myself?
So we've got to think about different contexts. So now this is a more Western context from where I come from. Okay. So the cultural nuances might be a little bit different.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So give you an example. So back home in Nigeria, there's a narrative. Women say, "I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to settle." Right. And I say, you got to settle. You have to settle, and for them, that is counterintuitive. They're like, no, why should I? If I want something so great, I shouldn't settle for anything less. And I say to them that, the difference between men and women, how they think. For example, a woman feels like, let me put it this way. A woman feels like she doesn't have to settle for less. So subconsciously, she suggests that she is more. So because I am more, I will not settle for less. Now, when guys don't think that in marrying you, they're settling for less. A man does not have, this is better, this is worse, this is better. He's not making a decision based on, the fact that, I want you means that I'm settling for you. Men don't generally think that way. So
which way, how do men think?
So in my opinion, African men, African men we don't have a Richter scale. We don't have a performance scale. Most African women feel like, I need to get a guy who fits. Give an example. So the average woman in Africa would say, I have a list: tall, dark, handsome, this, that, and the other. So they have a list. Guys don't have a list. If a guy likes you, he likes you. There's no list. He likes you. There's a connection, right? So one of the things I tell the women is like, look, your fantasy is getting in the way of your reality. So get rid of your list, because you're looking for a cookie cutter guy who's, who ticks all the boxes, but he's not there. That's not the guy you're going to see. So you have to, so to speak, not necessarily lower your expectations, but get rid of the list, because that fantasy you have is actually getting rid of it's standing in the way of the future reality or the happiness that you want. So it takes a lot of unlearning and, so to speak, retraining, because I don't know, again, like I said, I come from a culture where, yes, of course, every woman is upwardly mobile and they're doing all the right things. But for many women who've grown up in church, they've heard the narrative of, so he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Some of the scriptures that we say, which are great. But then again, sometimes women feel like, they're the prize to be won. But I'm saying, listen, the reason you're aging out, unfortunately, might be because the guys that you want are no longer within your market. So let me give this example. So please forgive me who's going to listen to this podcast. I do not mean to offend. This is a cultural nuance that is particular to me. All right. So if you're Western, this is my caveat. This is my disclaimer. Don't cancel me. All right.
I'm gonna put a big stamp on this thing.
Yeah, just put a big stamp on this. Right. So I'll give you an example. So I say, and I explain to the women this way. I say to them, if you have a chocolate bar, Jeff, and you priced it at $1,000 and you put it right there on the store, It's right there in the display case. And people come and they see the chocolate, it's beautiful. And once they ask for the price, it's $1,000. They're like, oh, heck it, nah, I can't afford that. And they walk away. And I say, after a while, if the chocolate bar has been there, even though this chocolate bar was, it got, the manufacturers got the cocoa beans from maybe Brazil, and it was assembled in Switzerland and sold in the US, as long as it's out of their price range, they're not going to buy it. Now, eventually, what's going to happen is that if the store manager recognizes this bar has been here a long time, what's going to happen? He's going to lower the price. Yeah. He's going to discontinue or put it on sale. Now, guess what's going to happen? It doesn't mean, so for example, in reducing the price of the chocolate, it doesn't mean you're reducing the value. I'll put it this way. So the chocolate bar does not lose value because the price was reduced. If the price is reduced, it's now making it more accessible to a market that can afford it. So unfortunately, what happens with most women, most African women, is they put a price on themselves and say, this is the price, and if you can't afford me, go. Now, unfortunately, it's a buyer's market, not a seller's market. So unfortunately, in Africa, there are more men than women, right? So it's a buyer's market. So he's going to feel like, well, if I don't buy you, and please forgive the term, if I don't purchase this chocolate bar, I can go right next door. I'm not losing anything. So at the end of the day, don't just put a price on you and say, this is my fixed price and I'm not negotiating. You don't lose your value by reducing your price. Reducing your price just makes you more accessible to a market that still desires you but couldn't afford you. So it's a totally different conversation. But the beautiful thing about it is a lot of the women, when they come in the program,
what about the expiry date there?
Well, I don't go there, bro. I do not go there. I don't go there. Because these are the things that, have been sold to women again, to say that, of course, there's an expiry date and this, that, and the other, but it is. I
mean, when it comes to relationships, the first thing, whether people are going to admit it or not, a long-term relationship, you might start bypassing that when you get to know somebody. But right. Initial is attraction. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. There has to be some physical attraction there. And then from there, you get to obviously know the person, and you're trying to essentially find, for a partner, you're trying to find your best friend. Yeah. There is going to be a time when looks are not going to matter.
True.
And if you don't have, I remember it was, I don't remember who said this. It was literally, I think it was like Tom Cruise or something. I was listening to an interview once, and he says, when you get married, you always have to have that mindset that, knock on wood, there's an accident and your partner's disfigured.
Absolutely.
Are you going to not love them as much anymore? You
Absolutely
have to, you fall in love with the person inside, you fall in love with their character, that friendship, that
absolutely
that union, and looks deteriorate. Things happen, right? So, but be realistically, where you're first starting to date, attraction has to come. Yeah. And then, like I said, when you set your standards at a certain level, you might not be looking at all these other layers, which are going to be the heart of everything that's going to count for the long term, right? So yeah,
absolutely,
I get you.
Because here's the thing, Jeff. A lot of the women that I speak with are a lot older, so then they're late 30s, early 40s, and then I always ask them the question: do you think you probably did not just even the children thing, but do you think you've missed out on certain opportunities because of your list or because you were too choosy? And they're always like, absolutely. And one of the things that I always reiterate to them is, love is a gift, but it doesn't always come in the package you want.
Yeah.
Right. Love is a gift, but it just doesn't always come in the package you want. So what many women are doing, unfortunately, is they are throwing away the gift because it didn't come in the right gift box. When you buy a cologne, what you want is the fragrance. You throw away the box. When you buy a computer, an iPad or a Mac, you throw away the box, right? But what many women are doing is that they're saying, look, if it doesn't come in this box, I don't want the gift. But love is a gift. It just doesn't come in the package you always want.
But I think we're preset to always be attracted to the package. When you go to a grocery store and you see 30 olive oil bottles on the shelf, all different brands, the one that catches your eye is the one you're going to push to first, right? So there's two sides to it, right? There's two sides to it, but I get you, and you have to understand too. There's exactly what you're saying. There is a time when as a female, if you do want to reproduce and have children, stuff like that, you have to look at all these factors, right? But
True.
Who would figure Steve, the love connector? Did you register a separate business for this?
No, I did not actually. It's for me. It's just a passion for me. It's not really. I don't do it for monetary reasons, to be honest. It's just something. There is
business there.
I know. I agree with you. Absolutely, I know.
The love doctor. Let's go,
bro. It is what it is. Hey, I'm maximizing my gift. I'm sharing my gift with the world. So I got entrepreneurship, I got business, I got love too. So it's beautiful.
So business wise, give me a rundown with what you've been doing and how you've been helping individuals. Are you still working? I remember when we first initially started our conversation a year ago. You're hyper focused on more smaller businesses. Have that scaled up? Has that changed? Or are you still looking at smaller businesses and helping people build, develop, and start ground up?
So it's a bit of both, to be honest. Yes, of course, I do help smaller businesses, but right now I'm in that phase where I'm helping people scale.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So there's actually a program that I have called the Goliath program, right? And basically what the idea of that is, I also recognize that most businesses, and I'm speaking from the cultural context from which I'm from, right? Most of my clients in Africa we don't build transgenerational businesses. Most of us just build a business for pure survival. And once we're dead, that's it. And for many of us, our businesses don't even survive the term of which we're alive. You know what I mean? So most entrepreneurs just build businesses to just, take care of themselves. They're more special purpose vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah. I call that there's entrepreneurs and then there's self-employed. To me, that's self-employed. When you're self-employed, when you're trading your time
for money
and money, you're self-employed. There's no difference.
Absolutely.
The only difference of somebody else paying you, you're just paying yourself. So you're just living as your means. And a lot of times when that need, that want from your customers isn't there, that's when the business falls apart. There's no sustainability. There's no passive income. So once you start learning how to do passive income, you start building it, you start bringing in employees. That's when you become quote unquote an entrepreneur, right?
Absolutely. So taking people from that level, then also with some of my clients here as well, they're in the place where they want to be able to scale and then diversify. So there's a lot of conversations going on, really quite exciting stuff. But that's the journey I'm on right now.
So give me an example. Give me an example of one of your clients. You don't have to give details, but when somebody is at that point, when do you find them? And I do as well. So where do you find, when you have somebody at what level you say, you know what, you're ready to take the next tier, and whether it's bringing employees, whether it's bringing new products, whether it's expanding your market, when do you find that they're ready for that? And how do you, what street or how do you navigate through to what area they need to grow or develop? Just give the audience a little lesson here.
Yeah. So that's a great question. To be honest, first off, one of the reasons I think businesses don't scale is, first off, the limits of the mindsets of the business owner.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So first off, there's a lot of mindset issues that have to be addressed. Now, when a business, in my opinion, is ready to scale, usually it happens where a lot of their numbers are predictable. You know what I mean? So it's not like they're on autopilot. They're coasting. So they're bringing in certain amounts of numbers, so to speak, without breaking a sweat, right? And that's where, for many entrepreneurs, complacency comes in. That's when they plateau. Comfort comes in. Exactly. So when that happens, when you've seen that, over the last, 9 months, 12 months, you've been bringing, perhaps even 18 months, you've been bringing about the same amount of revenue without any hitches or glitches. That usually is a sign that, listen, we need to be able to go harder. We need to be able to go bigger, because now you are in the place of comfort or complacency. Now we need to be able to invest in systems or processes. Yes, people, of course, but systems and processes to replicate what you're doing easy here in a new environment. So yeah, that's one of the ways we look at.
So when you're looking at systems and processes, I love processes. What are you looking at systems and processes? Give me an example of how they would scale it to another level. I'll give you an example. I'm a product source business. We have 3 or 4 products we're selling. We have our steady income. We're making our 25, 30,000 a month. We're doing well enough to feel comfortable. We're paying ourselves a salary. How would I scale myself to the next level?
So first off, the question is, what is the next level for you?
I would say a lot of people would be financially, right?
Yeah. So for most people, exactly, that's financially. One of the things that I realize is many entrepreneurs build businesses, like I said, as a special purpose vehicle. So yeah, we're paying our bills. There's no sense of imagination. There's no sense of scale. And I think a lot of us are accidental entrepreneurs. We probably started out with an idea or a passion, and all of a sudden we hit the ground and we got some success, and then we built it into a business that has become our 9-to-5, or in some cases a 24/7. Yeah. Now, many businesses, for example, they don't start off with the idea, for example, of maybe like I'm hoping to franchise this business model across 25 locations over the next 3 years. Yeah. Most people aren't thinking that way. Most people are just content with their mom and pop shop, and it's doing well. We don't have to worry about anything. This business is still going to be around for another 20, 25 years. I'll hand it over to my kids, right? So for us, when we're looking at entrepreneurs that we challenge them to scale, of course, we've looked at their processes. We've looked at their growth. We've looked at their processes. We've looked at their revenue. We looked at their profits. We've looked at the human capital. Another thing we need to be able to ask ourselves is, okay, so how do we take this model and replicate success somewhere else? Because unfortunately, and as I'm sure you know, Jeff, that many entrepreneurs are not looking at being systemic. They've not charted the process. They don't know what they did to get to where they were. It was almost like it's just autopilot. I just got into the car, turned on the ignition, and I started driving. But they don't know how the car works, right? So for a lot of times, we need to be able to look at those businesses and even begin to reverse engineer some of the things that they did that may have been unconscious competence that got them to some sort of success. And then we now begin to build a system around that. And in other cases, we even look at that system and see how we can optimize it for growth. Because, as you know, the cliche is there, what got you here might not necessarily get you there. You know what I mean? How do we replicate not just the system, but even also the kind of vision or the kind of, do we have a team, for example, that is no longer just listening to instruction, but are now beginning to take initiative to say, hey, this was great, but there are better ways of doing that.
I think that is one of the hardest issues when it comes to growth.
Exactly.
Yes. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but when it comes to that issue of having the proper understanding where people start taking initiative on their own is a huge aspect of why businesses don't develop or grow in the proper direction. So continue that. I apologize.
No, absolutely. You're right. So because, and some, unfortunately, to some entrepreneurs, when their team start taking the place of initiative, they misinterpret that as insubordination. Yeah. They misinterpret that as challenging their authority. That, listen, if you got this great idea, why don't you go do it in your own time, or do it in your own space? Unfortunately, and before you know it, you've empowered somebody who could have been in your team to become your competition. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I think sometimes that's an unspoken conversation that entrepreneurs should have, where many of us who have started businesses are bruised by maybe other people that we have worked with. So we are bleeding entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? We've served, we've worked, and now we want to be able to show people that, you know what, since you didn't take a chance on me, I'm going to take a chance on me, and I'm going to prove you wrong. So a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, are bleeding, and we don't know how to pass the torch, Jeff. We don't know how to pass the torch. So we see people in our teams, in our spaces, who are growing. And that's the job of every leader, I believe. The job of a leader is to raise leaders, not followers. Yep. One way you know that you're effective and you know that it's time for you to be able to scale is where you recognize that, listen, I have a lot more leaders on my team than I do followers. And those leaders might need a place of expression, right? So how do we get them to buy into the vision that we have for Kimura, for example, or for our organization? How do we take them? How do we share a vision, get them to buy into that vision, and get them to own that vision, even if it has to be under our flagship or our colors? But that's a conversation that most entrepreneurs, are not ready to have, because they feel like, once somebody else isn't taking that place of initiative, they just want to come in and just learn my secrets and then go out and start their own business.
Yeah.
But
that's going to happen no matter what scale.
True.
You're always going to have individuals that are going to come in, and you see that in a lot of industries where they'll feel like they could do it on their own. And I would say 80 to 90% of the time, it never is successful, but it does hurt that individual that feels like they harnessed, they've taught, they've pressed this person into this situation, and now they fear them as their competition. And I mean, my mindset with that, Steve, is competition is not a bad thing. Competition is a good thing. Never fear competition as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing is when you fear competition, that is when you start really start. You're spending more time focusing on them than focusing on your growth of the business, right?
True.
So that is the first thing, and the second is having individuals that have that mindset where they're. I always say you want to have people not as a family, as a team. So you having those individuals as a team player, and they all understand their role. And a lot of big corporations, they never have that process in place where everybody is set as a team. Everybody has their individual roles. So it's a mindset where when somebody scales up, there's that spot missed up. There's no one ready to bump into that position.
True,
and there's that constant situation where they're trying to fill slots in with outside people, bringing in new people all the time, instead of having almost like a conveyor belt where people are just splitting. Especially when you're looking at a company that has 10, 20, 30 employees, you need to have that elevation where it's just constantly rotating, where if there is a spot miss, somebody should tuck in. And that comes through a lot of just basic stuff. I mean, company policies, company manuals, having processes in place, having other individuals in the company all learn different processes of the company, even though that's not their job. They understand the other positions, so they'll be able to slot in if needed, right? So there's tons of things that could progress and grow in a company properly. But like you said, it all comes down to what you said at the beginning. The process has to be in place for all that.
Yeah. And you can't grow beyond the vision you have for your business, and your business can't grow beyond the vision, beyond the mindset the entrepreneur has for it. You know what I mean? So even if you do have that conveyor belt of people who could possibly take over, the question is, what are they taking over if your business is too small to handle them? You know what I mean? So there's growth is important. No matter how much you love your kid. If my daughter's, she just turned 11 2 days ago, right? And no matter how much I love her, I don't want her to remain at 11 years old. You know what I mean? I'd be very concerned if at the age of 30, she still had the mentality, the size, the growth of an 11-year-old, for an example, right? So growth is inevitable, right? But then you must have that scale in your mind to be able to say, okay, you know what? Yes, we're grateful for what we've done, but there's still so much further we can go. Unless you're really comfortable with, for example, being a mom and pop, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's what it is you want, that's what it is you want. You know what I mean? But then again, know that there's only there's only a particular kind of human resource that you will be able to attract into that business for a while before they will come through that conveyor belt and then realize there's nowhere else to go but out. And then you got to start the process all over again. And that's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Yeah. And like exactly what you said. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having, whether you're running a hair salon or what I would consider more of a mom and pop shop. There's not much growth unless you're looking at the bigger picture where you're franchising, and then that's another world altogether. Do you ever go into businesses and look at them and be like, the business has a great process, they have everything in place, just for the growth, the branding or the image or the style is not there to help the growth of the business?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I believe that every business, to some degree, is a reflection of the owner. You know what I mean? Every business has a personality. Every business has if your business was a color, what color would it be? If it was a car, what vehicle would it be? If it was an animal, what animal would it be? Business has personality. And I think that,
do you believe it? Sorry, just because you said that, do you believe in creating an avatar for the business?
Absolutely. I believe that. I believe that. I believe that because you need to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
You need to know who's not for you. You know what I mean? I like watching, English football or soccer, like the Americans call it. We call it football, right? But I like watching football, and I always say that, give you. I'm not sure how familiar you are with football clubs, but you can use maybe Toronto, basketball clubs as an example.
Yeah, I know football clubs. I'm good with football. You can name some. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I say, for an example, Manchester United isn't trying to attract Arsenal fans.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. They're all in the business of football, but Manchester United, for example, is not trying to attract Arsenal fans, and vice versa. They know who their customers are. You know what I mean? So you've got to be clear with your business and say, who am I speaking to? Who is not for us? So I think having avatars is important, because one of the things that I've recognized that most entrepreneurs have as a challenge is being able to communicate the value they deliver to their customers in a way that the customers consider it as valuable. Yeah. All right. Let me say that again. Being able to communicate the value you offer to your customers in a way that the customers consider it as being valuable. You know what I mean? So sometimes we invest in a lot of marketing messages and branding and all those things, which are great, but your customers don't consider that as valuable. So when you communicate your message and it just goes over their head or flies under the radar, they probably didn't consider it as valuable. So a lot of entrepreneurs, do have a long way to go with that.
So when you're conveying a message to your customer base, and whether it's through an ad or marketing or anything, just to get their attention, where's your time lapse? Like, how do you value whether the customer's getting value from that or not? Is it just strict metrics? Is it strict feedback? Like, how do you measure it? And how long do you keep something running before you put a stop on it, before you accelerate, before you put more gas on it? Like, what do you do?
Well, I mean, feedback is important, no doubt about that. So personally, I think I have this framework that we use. We call it ACT marketing, right? And it's a simple acronym. So A stands for attract attention. Okay. C stands for creates conversation, creates connections, creates community, right? And then T stands for turn to transactions. So I think a lot of brands do the first part right, generally, or most generally. They attract attention, right? But that attention, you need to now look further and ask the question, is it creating conversation? Now, you know what they say, good news, bad news is all news, right? Is it creating conversation? Number two, is it creating connection? Now, that connection, particularly with the people who your avatar, your avatar, is it connecting that avatar? Number three, is it creating some sense of community? You know what I mean? Is it creating some sense of community? And then lastly, is it turning into transactions? Because I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs are just ego tripping with advertising or marketing. You know what I mean? We're just putting stuff out there that, attracts attention or is just generating attention, but doesn't fall through the filters of creating community. It's not creating connections. It's not creating conversation. Yeah. And lastly, it's not going to turn to transactions. So for us, when we go through a campaign, we're asking ourselves beyond attracting attention, so give you an example. It's one thing, for example, for you to go on Instagram and post something. So you can post a picture, post something about your business, and people can say, oh, yes, people are liking. Liking is great. But if you really want to know if it created some sort of connection, for example, you ask yourself, how many people saved this picture? How many people saved the post? Because anybody can like, because, give an example on Instagram, there are a lot of bots. They would automatically like, they would automatically comment, they would automatically follow. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you've created connection. So if you want to know, did it create any connection? How many people saved it? So if you posted something on Instagram and you notice that, you got 10,000 likes, but only one save, right? It didn't fall through that, axis, and then we need to be able to tweak again and say, okay, how do we make sure it creates a better connection and so on? And so how does it act better? Let me put it that way. So that's very important.
I love what you said. There's one word that I strongly believe in, and it doesn't matter what type of business, is the community.
Absolutely.
Creating community, whatever you do, is so valuable, because that community, they become your brand ambassadors. They become your advertisers. They become the people that are going to push the new level of clients towards you. So I love that community aspect, because that's something a lot of people don't really focus on, is understanding. They think they might have a one product business or a 30 product business or have a service, they don't understand building community around that service. That business is just going to help you expand drastically faster.
True.
Yeah,
absolutely true.
So how do you apply this all to yourself? Where do you see your business going in the next little while?
Brother, I'm out for world domination, man. Give me the world. But again, and this is where real humility, I dare say, comes in, is to recognize that there are certain things that you learn, you have to unlearn, and still constantly invest in education. I think entrepreneurship is an investment in education. Yeah. A lot of us perhaps, don't do that. So being here, so give you an example, Jeff. I mean, and I say this again, it may not sound humble, but I do say this with a great sense of humility. Coming from Nigeria, I'm a pretty big deal. I'm a pretty big deal at what I do, right? I'm in the 1% of the 1% in our field, in our industry, in Nigeria and some parts of Africa, right? And coming to the US, it's almost for me, it's been like in Nigeria, I was a 10. And now I'm in the US, and everyone around me, so to speak, in my field is an 11 to 20. You know what I mean? People are, and it's not because I lack content or I lack knowledge or wisdom. It's just that there's a different way, there's a different environment, there's a different market, right?
A lot more competition as well.
Exactly, a lot more competition. So now I feel like now I'm in 11. And I have to learn how to grow all the way to becoming a 20, even though I was a 10 where I was coming from. So for me, the humility is in understanding and learning. And to be honest, I think why my blood pressure went up, and I had to go to the doctors, is because I have not given myself grace, Jeff. I'm incredibly hard on myself. I mean, I'm hard on my clients because I'm hard on myself. You know what I mean? So I have been not complaining, to be honest. I've just been so hard on myself about how different the market is and how different the marketing is, that I've not been able to sit back and say, listen, come on, dude, you do know you've only been here for about 6 months, right? You do know that right now you are in a learning phase. And while I am learning all over again and connecting and creating connections and community and going through the motions and seeming, and so to speak, putting my head low so I can observe and shutting my mouth so I can listen, you know what I mean? It takes a great deal of humility to do that. So I'm learning I have to learn to give myself grace, to say, come on, man, look, hey. And I think business owners need to do the same, because we are so tough on ourselves, because this is our life's work. So for me, I'm just in that place now, particularly because I just came back from the hospital, where I have a wake-up call to just say, come on, man, you got to just, while you do want to take over the world, you got to be alive and healthy to do it. So, yeah.
I mean, obviously, health comes above everything else. That's first and foremost. I think we've had this conversation before where, I mean, having that Ferrari in a driveway means shit all if you're in a hospital bed, right? So, I mean, that's first and foremost. But I think that's what makes us special, buddy. I don't think it's a bad thing. Yeah. I think our drive and our mindset is what puts us at a different level. And I always say too, is as much as stress could be a negative thing, stress is also allows us to grow. Anything in life that grows or develops has to be stressed. There needs to be some form of stress to it to help it grow. So I think is learning how to manage, learning how to say it's time for a break, learning how to understand your body. These are all things I think we all have to learn, and we're always constantly learning. But the minute you can learn how, okay, it's time to take a break, or it's time to take a step back, or time to, you know what, there's only one of me. I'm just going to focus on this task right now, finish it off. I don't have to worry about 30 things. When I'm done this one, I'll take on the next one. Understanding how to prioritize stuff, how to really look at your checklist and understanding what has to be done, what's priority. Once you can start to master that, I mean, I'm a strong believer that, I mean, all that drive, all that stress, that's what keeps you getting up every day, keeps you going. So I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just learning how to manage it and how to take care of yourself, how to physically take care of yourself. So you're at a higher level physically. And when you're there, it allows you to get through more of the stress.
True. I agree.
So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So what else is new with you, buddy?
I'll tell myself. I'll remember that. I'll tell myself that.
Very, very, very good. So do you have are you working from home? Do you have an office there?
So right now I'm working from home. Yeah. We're getting an office in again, my wife and I are discussing the pros and cons of just getting an office right now. Again, because as I said, our move is just recent. Yeah. And so there's really no pressure because a lot of what I'm doing at the moment is online. So so right now we're just working from home, keeping it simple. Projections maybe in another 6 months, then we can now have a conversation about offices, looking at how we're reaching out to our clients and demand and supply and all those other things. But right now, just taking it easy. Working from home, for me, it's important because I get to see my daughter grow up. And for me, what is really important is I don't want to be that dad who was too busy working that I missed out on her childhood, so getting to see her grow up is important. Being able to be home to just chill and ask her about her day, and her to confide in me and talk to me. Those things are very, very important for me. So it may not.
Time flies, buddy. Time does fly. My daughter just turned 16. My daughter just turned 16.
Whoa! Congratulations, brother.
My daughter just turned 16. She's an incredible young lady. I mean, honor roll. Yes. Superstar, high performance dancer. She works out every single day. I mean, she's just amazing. An incredible person. She cooks, she cleans, she does laundry. She's just an incredible kid. But I'm looking at her, I'm like,
amazing.
She's 16. I got probably a couple of years before she's off to university. And she's such a driven entrepreneur. Like, she's not staying locally. She's going somewhere far. I already know that. We already know that. She wants to be independent. And I'm looking at my wife like I can still remember her like holding her in my arms when she came home, and she had this long ponytail in the back of her neck. She literally had, I swear to God, Steve, a ponytail like this long, like half a foot on the back of her neck when she came out. She came onto this world, and it was just like, we still have these pictures, and I'm like, I can still remember holding her, and she was the most colicky baby for the first 3 months. She cried every single night. Me and my wife would have shit to hold her. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, it's 16 years have flown by. My son just turned 4. My son just turned 14. It's just life is
happening.
It happens, and it's not stopping, and it's true. And I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but a little over a year ago, my father just passed away. So after we talked, my father,
I remember,
and it's you're looking at yourself now, and now you start putting yourself in the place of your parent.
True.
So I'm looking at my dad, I'm like my mom and my dad, and I'm thinking in my head, like, there was a time they were looking at us. We were finishing high school.
Yeah.
Now, like, it's so crazy. I'm 45. Like, where is the time gone? So you do have to sit back every once in a while and take a deep breath and just appreciate what you have. Look down at your feet and be present. I think those are just such important factors of everything we do. Just learning how to be present on a regular basis, right? Yeah. But I appreciate you doing that, because it does fly by. And I've been fortunate. I'm very close to my kids. I mean, they're 14, 16. I got home yesterday, and they both have gym memberships. And the first thing we did as soon as we get home is go to the gym. We all work out together at a local gym. And tonight, as soon as we get home, we're always together. So I spend a lot of time. I still take my kids at least 3-4 days a week to school. I drive them to school. I try to pick them up when I can. So I have an incredible relationship with my kids, and I've had a crazy, incredible relationship with my kids, and I've been very present. So I'm grateful that I've had that. But like I said, it flies by. So appreciate that time, man. It flies by so quickly. Any more children for you, or?
We're working on it, Jeff. We're working on it. Okay. I'll let you know as soon as I know.
I love it. This has been a fun conversation, man. Where can our audience get a hold of you?
It always is.
Where can our audience get a hold of you, buddy?
Instagram, my handle is I am Steve Harris. Twitter, I am Steve Harris. Website, I am steveharris.com. So yeah.
I love it. This will continue, and our friendship will continue. And when are you planning to come to Toronto to see your brother?
I'm coming hopefully in another 2 months. So yes, I am.
You're going to reach out to me.
I will, bro. I got your number, man. I got your number.
I'll have you up. I'm just finishing off a beach house. That'll be done by then. I'll have you up 100%. We'll go chill up there.
Mate, that sounds beautiful. Looking forward to it, brother.
Okay, I'm holding up to that. You better. I'll be pissed off if you come here and don't call me.
No, I will definitely call you, bro. I ain't gonna come into Canada without letting you know.
Love it. Thank you so much, brother.
Same here. Always a pleasure. Always, fellas, subscribe to the Jeff Lopes podcast. This is perhaps the best entrepreneurial podcast for fathers, family, faith, and finance. That's my plug, but yeah.
Love it. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it as always.
That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Steve Harris, for taking time in his busy schedule to be a guest on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. The second time around, another great conversation, tons of fun. If you guys enjoyed it as much as I have, like all weeks, tell your friends, tell your family, leave a review. 5 stars would be absolutely amazing. We love spending time, myself, my team, reading all the reviews. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward.